One of the things that you always tell me is when I come to a recovery conference like this, and there's been many, I do feel our allies say we stand with Ukraine, and they mean it. But a war is long, it's expensive. Did you feel any fatigue in this round?
Thank you so much for invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you and morning. So it's second conference for Ukrainian recovery. First one was held in Switzerland 1 year ago. Today we are in London. 62 countries and international organizations are here. Hundreds of businesses are here, international businesses. We feel tremendous support from all of our partners. We feel financial support, sanctional, military support, humanitarian support. Results of this conference have a long-term consequences. We have many promises. We have many concrete agreements, declarations, memorandums. We have financial support. We have middle-term program for Ukrainian support from European Commission, from European Union for 50 billion euro for the next 4 years. We have tremendous support from United Kingdom. We have very good meetings with our partners and with United States Secretary of State. We have very good conversations, negotiations, and very good results.
And yet, while all of this is happening, we know that back home the fighting continues and the counteroffensive is going. And I do want to make something very clear. Was there at any point in this conference, did you get any hint that anyone suggested the funding will depend on the counteroffensive?
Absolutely no.
If it's successful, more money. If it's not, it would be less. No one told you that.
We have very, very sustainable, very strong, and very unwavering support from our partners. There is no dependence from results on the battlefield.
They are entirely different.
Absolutely. We have very strong messages, especially on that conference. Ukraine is future member of EU. Ukraine will be supported by partners. Russia must pay because of these consequences of this war, of terrible war and aggression from Russia's side. So these messages from partners are very supportive, are very promising, and now we continue our counteroffensive. This is not easy walk. This is not Hollywood movie, as our President Volodymyr Zelensky said yesterday.
Yesterday he seemed a little bit exasperated. This is not a movie. It takes time. It takes patience. Absolutely. Is that what you feel at times too? This is not Hollywood. It's real people and it's lives.
Yes, and every life is very important for us. And we are not Russia. We are not Soviet-style army when they bring their lives to the fire of the war. So we are very careful. We are very smart. We use NATO standards in this war because we are fighting according to NATO standards. We are fighting for weaponry of NATO countries. And counteroffensive, it's multiple operation. It's offensive, it's defensive operations, it's tactical pauses. So it will take time, but we have first results.
It's too early to make an assessment.
Absolutely.
Now, that's what you say.
We have first results of our counteroffensive. 8 villages are liberated. More than 113 square kilometers is liberated. 7 kilometers go into the head from the front line. So it's very important results for the 2 weeks, and we will continue.
And sir, of course, now you have, you're on Bloomberg TV, of course you have the investment community that's watching this interview, but you also have a lot of taxpayers, some of whom are very sympathetic to Ukraine too, but they say we want to see value for money, but also this idea of corruption at times. I remember President Zelensky said, my government will crush the oligarchs. We will be a before and after moment in Ukraine. Is that the moment or the message that you're sending to people? Things are changing in Ukraine.
Ukraine is changing, absolutely. President, our government, we have zero tolerance to the corruption.
You will ditch people that are corrupted if you find anyone.
We finished formation and creation of our anti-corruptional infrastructure together with our partners. We are absolutely transparent, accountable, and open. And this anti-corruptional infrastructure is working now, and we demonstrate to all the world that we are fighting with a corruption country. And we will have results. We continue our reforms. We continue digitalization. We take off state and public services from persons and go to the digital space. And this is very, very effective way to fight corruption. Just don't let people to be corrupted, because digitalization brings new technologies and new possibilities.
And can I ask you, your meeting with Mr. Blinken Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, he was here, and I know you had a one-to-one meeting. There's an election coming up in the United States. Is that something that worries you, or did he tell you the United States is in for the long haul? This is about values for the U.S.
United States is a very important partner, is the biggest supporter for Ukraine. So we discussed all the important issues. We discussed, first of all, financial support, and Mr. Blinken announced the next $1.3 billion support, financial support for Ukraine, for our reforms, for our recovery, for our energy sector. It's very important for us. We also discussed all other issues, very important in sense of development of my country despite the war. Demining activity, sanctions against Russia, development of energy sector in Ukraine, and many other very important issues. So
the meeting went well, and I also wonder, however, with the average American that may be watching this too, and is thinking, but Ukraine is a far way off. I don't know anything about this country. What's going on there with my money? What's your message? What would you say? Stay with us because what?
First of all, we are very grateful to American people, to United Kingdom people, to all our partners who support us military, financially, by sanctions. It's crucially important because we are fighting not only for our land, for our families, for our people. We are fighting for democratic and for civilized values. It's crucial. And because of this, all democratic world support Ukraine. Why? Because this is about global security system. And it's very important, don't let any aggressor to have a free thinking about future possible aggression.
If Russia were to win this, and it's a hypothetical, then would you say it would be the moral collapse of the West? If we let that happen, it would be the moral collapse of the West.
I think that...
You don't even contemplate Russia winning.
It's impossible. It's impossible, and I think that I'm sure that the civilized world will not let Russia win this war, because it's about existential things. It's about the world security system. And from my side, I should say that Ukrainians have no intention, no imagination that we may lose this war, because it's about our existence. It's war with war crimes, with war against humanity, with genocide against Ukrainian nation. So if Russia will win this war, it will mean that Ukraine and Ukrainian nation is not exist anymore. So from our side, we understand that we will liberate our country in the borders as on the 1991.
And it is existential. That's a word I heard the most the last time I was in Ukraine, that this was existential for the country now. And I want to ask you, however, another existential question perhaps is the NATO summit. You said in this conference, for a strong economy, you need a strong country, and that means security. What's going to happen in that meeting? President Zelensky said, my people have shed blood for a timeline now to NATO. What's going to happen in a month's time in that meeting?
I may repeat, we are fighting according NATO standards. We are fighting by weaponry of NATO.
So why is it so scary for some?
In fact, our army is NATO army right now. We are fighting for the same principles for which NATO was created. So I'm sure that membership of Ukraine in NATO, it will be a very win-win situation, very mutually beneficial situation. So we are waiting so that this summit in Vilnius will be a very strong summit, and we will hear very concrete and very strong messages about Ukrainian membership in NATO. And we hope that partners will do this. We have 20 allies which are supporting Ukraine, which sign some declarations. We discuss with some skeptical allies, but we have sure inside of our hearts that everything will be good.
And very briefly, sometimes you hear people say, just sit down and talk to Vladimir Putin. When you hear the name Vladimir Putin, does it trigger anything in you, or you just go, this is in the past, I'm not interested in Vladimir Putin?
Putin is the biggest crimer of our times, of 21st century. We don't believe that he may do something to bring peace in Ukraine. So only his step to stop shot and take off Russian army from Ukrainian territory may stop this war and bring peace back on the European continent. But he has this possibility since 214. So we understand that this is now impossible.